10 Most Incredible Discoveries from Second World War. 1. A Panther tank found in a basement garage. The Panther tank was extremely tough and far superior to most of the tanks that were seen throughout the Second World War. This was thanks to their strength, but also versatility, which proved to be the bane of many of the Allies' tanks. These tanks were a medium tank and were used on the Western and Eastern fronts in Europe between the middle of 1943 and the end of the war in 1945. It was somewhat vulnerable to flanking fire, but it was able to move extremely effectively in open country and was well primed to handle engagements in a longer setting. There was a somewhat limited amount of high explosive power that would make it more effective against enemy infantry. 2. Discovery of millions of silver coins from shipwreckage. One of the childhood dreams of many a kid was to one day find the wreckage of an old pirate ship and to discover a chest full of gold or some other treasury. There are even many people who dedicate their lives to searching for these types of wreckages and subsequently uncovering a new fortune for themselves. One such case involved a group of men and women from the United Kingdom who managed to find a massive hoard of silver coins that has a value of $44 million. This discovery was made in the wreckage of a steamship that the German had sunk at what was a record depth of 17,000 feet. 3. An Austrian complex for Nazi nuclear weapons. There was a cave discovered in Austria which provided a particular place of interest for historians and the locals, who had come across it as a result of the strangely elevated nuclear radiation levels that had been measured at the site. While there were some professionals who made the claim that it is possible that these levels were fairly normal, others are not so sure. The locals and the historians involved do not want to take the chance that there is an issue there regarding radiation, and they will not be content until a full investigation into this cave has been completed. They want to know what it may contain and what it was used for during the Second World War. 4. A carrier pigeon stuck in a chimney. Carrier pigeons were an important part of the war effort as they were able to carry messages back and forth in a manner that was not easily intercepted. They had no email or text messaging back then, so they had to look for alternative methods of sending messages. And the postal system could hardly be trusted, and not everyone had access to telegram machines. The skeleton of a carrier pigeon was recently found after seemingly more than 70 years stuck in a chimney in Surrey, England, with a coded message still being tied to its leg. 5. Japanese I-400 mega-submarine. It was in 2013 that there was a discovery made of a Japanese mega-submarine off the coast of Oahu, a Hawaiian island. This mega-sub was an I-400, which was the biggest submarine that was used by anyone during the Second World War. And they were able to carry up to 3 Aichi M6A1 Siren float planes. These mega-submarines had been initially developed in order to be able to surface, have their planes launched and then dive back down again quickly before they were spotted. 6. USS Independence aircraft carrier. The CVL-22, or more commonly known as the Independence, was part of a total of 90 ships that had been assigned to the Operation Crossroads mission, which were the tests being undertaken for the atomic bombs. These were taking place at the Bikini Atoll located in the Marshall Islands. In 1951 the ship was scuttled and not many people were aware of what it had been used for following its involvement in the atomic bomb tests. It was in 2015 that the shipwreck was found. A team of researchers began to work on the comparisons of sonar images taken of the wreckage with those from declassified documents. This allowed them to figure out that this ship had subsequently been utilized as a nuclear waste receptacle and radiology laboratory between 1946 and 1950. 7. P40 Kittyhawk. After more than 70 years of being missing, an RAF pilot's body was finally found, located in the Egyptian desert. It was in 1942 that they had first been reported missing after he never returned to the airbase after being out on a mission. This was an astonishing discovery made over 7 decades later, and it showcases what amazing discoveries can be lurking just around the next corner if you know where to look. It had been a Curtiss Kittyhawk fighter jet that he had been flying, and it is believed that this plane had crashed in the desert. The pilot in question was named as Flight SGT. Kopping, and it was initially believed that it was the Luftwaffe who had shot him down close to the Libya-Egypt border. 8. JMS Moushi Japanese battleship. It was almost 7 decades following the end of the Second World War in March of 2015 that the Musashi Japanese battleship that had been sunk was finally found in the Sibyam Sea, which is by the coast of the Philippines. The researchers were confident that they managed to discover this ship after they managed to identify a Type 89 gunner turret on the wreckage, which was one of the standout features of the Musashi, which had been at the time up there with the largest battleships that had ever been created. 9. Graf Zeppelin. There was only a single type of aircraft carrier that had been built by the German Navy during the Second World War. This was called the Graf Zeppelin and it was initially launched in 1938, the year before the start of the war. It was in May of 1941 that Hitler had been informed by the Grand Admiral Reeder that they had managed to get 85% through the building of the Graf Zeppelin, and that it would be fully finished and ready to be used by 1942. 10. Discovery of an Main 262 jet inside of a bomb crater. Air warfare was first introduced in the Second World War and this led to a lot of devastation both in the air and on the ground and sea. This meant that many targets that were previously unreachable could now be targeted with attacks from the air, causing widespread devastation and panic. As the war went on, more sophisticated aircraft and weapons were created which caused further damage and casualties. The Japanese even got to a stage where they began to use their own aircraft as weapons, performing suicide missions whereby they would fly their planes into American ships in the Pacific Ocean. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for joining.